very good evening to all my wonderful parents and dear, dear little children. Welcome to day 8 of this entire festival. As the curtains fall on the first edition of the Get Set Parent Children's Literature, Art and Music Festival with Vishwarang, I can't help but go back in time to 2 months ago when we first conceptualized this entire show of 8 days. You know, we are a parenting channel, but we realized, what are parents without their children? We kept wondering, what can we do for children who've been locked in at home all the way since March? What better than to bring the world to their screens and put forth the best in literature, art, and music? I'm so incredibly thankful to all the wonderful authors, artists, musicians, resource persons, and others who came together and saw our vision to do something as spectacular as what you've been witnessing over the last 8 days. A big, big thank you also to all our wonderful partner collaborators who helped us reach out to children across the country. Did you know this festival is being witnessed across 20 countries as a part of the very, very large Vishwarang International Festival as well? It takes a very large team to organize something as vast as this. I couldn't have done this without the support of my excellent team behind the brand of Get Set Parent with Pallavi. We have designers, we have editors, we have cameramen, we have digital experts, research consultants, and so many people who helped me in putting together this entire canvas. And finally, what would I do without the immense love and support that I got from all of you, my wonderful audience? You have been tuning in every day and witnessing 21 amazing sessions and spreading the word around. What more could I ask for? We at the Get Set Parent and Vishwarang team promise to be back next year with the second edition, bigger, better, more spectacular than the one that you have just witnessed. But, the festival is not yet over. We have the cherry on the cake waiting just for you. Today we're going to witness 3 fantastic sessions, right? We have the wonderful Mrs. Rohini Nilekani, who's going to enthrall us with a story reading of her latest book, and we're going to get into a very, very nice chat with her. We have the prolific Anand Neelakantan, who has churned out super hits like Bahubali, Asura, and whatnot. We're going to talk to him, and he's going to, do some really fun activities with our children. And finally, we have the mesmerizing Shillong Chamber Choir to put a musical end note to this entire festival. So stay tuned, don't go anywhere. Today you want to see all 3 sessions, but before we get into our first session, you know what to do. Press the bell icon to stay subscribed and follow me and all the wonderful things I have lined up for you, even post this festival. Also follow me on Instagram and Facebook to stay tuned with everything that I do. So what are we waiting for? Let's jump right into today's sessions. As a girl growing up in Bangalore, I have been in awe for over 3 decades now, tracking the phenomenal work of a power couple, Mrs. Rohini Nilekani and Mr. Nandan Nilekani. Today, it's almost a little girl's dream come true as I get into a conversation with the wonderful Mrs. Rohini Nilekani. How does one describe this superwoman? She's a journalist, she's an author, she's an avid children's writer, a noted philanthropist, and a crusader for environmental rights, among so many other things. She founded Pratham Books way back in 2004 with the vision to taking books in several Indian languages all the way to children across India. She's also the founder chairperson of Aghyam, which focuses on water, sanitation, and other environmental issues as well. It is with immense delight that I take you into this wonderful conversation that I had with the tireless bundle of energy, Mrs. Rohini Nilekani. Dear friends, children, parents, finally, the evening we've all been waiting for. We're so happy to welcome on to Get Set Parent with Pallavi, Rohini Nilekani ma'am. Thank you so much for, honoring us. And welcome to the first edition of the Children's Literature, Art and Music Festival in association with Vishwarang.
Thank you so much, Pallavi. It's a great honor for me to be here. And I'm so much looking forward to our session. And I hope lots of children and lots of parents are going to be listening to us.
Oh, yes. There are so many facets of you we're going to uncover today. And, we have so many moms who are so curious to know the person behind the whole persona of Mrs. Rohini Nilekani. And of course, the children want to hear all about the new lovely story that you've written for them. So we're going to get into all of that today.
Thank you, Pallavi.
So, Rohini ma'am, I was just reading about you. And I realize your accomplishments are so vast. You're, it's almost what jumped out of at me was like you're a role model for youth and children. You talk about things people don't talk about. You talk about joy of giving. You talk about, the environment, water conservation, gender equity, women empowerment. So all of these are issues that we try to talk to young, young adults today, to children today. So, looking back, is this what you were, are these areas you were always passionate about? That I'm going to contribute to these areas, or how did you enter so many, areas of work?
Thank you for those kind words, but honestly, just all people evolve based on their circumstances, and I pretty much got very lucky. A lot depends on the household you're born in. And I was born into a household where we were always encouraged to explore, to read, to learn, to use our minds, to set goals for ourselves, right? And so I think that matters a lot. We always had role models in our family. My grandfather, my paternal grandfather, was really looked up to by the whole clan because he lived his life in such a purposeful manner. He joined Gandhiji right at the beginning in Champaran, and he did so many things that we could aspire to be as human beings. So there were always role models. There was always a culture of curiosity and learning in the house, and I think I owe a lot of debt to that.
Lovely, lovely. And then as you grew up, you started finding areas that you could contribute.
To the point of this being a literature festival, I started reading very early because there were always books around us, right? And when I was very, very young, 4 years old, I would look over my sister's shoulder. She used to borrow these fun books from the local library, and I wanted to know how to read. So long before we were taught in school, I started reading, and reading opened up everything. Yeah. My childhood, like many others, was spent between the pages of marvelous books of all kinds. And I think books open the doors to so many things, right? That's the point of a literature festival, yes, to allow us to experience that joy together. So especially for little children. So the biggest joy and the biggest learning came to me from books, starting from the age of 4 till now. So I owe a lot to books. Yeah. I owe a lot to, in America. We went to America after I got married, and I experienced the whole free public library system there. Yeah. And I feel as though I gave myself an education in those public libraries of America, because at that time we had almost no money, and that whole system was free. And I could just go and come back with this pile of books on physics, philosophy, politics, whatever it was, and give myself an education, because in college I goofed off a lot. So I had to catch up. So that was another debt that one has to repay. Yeah. How do you create public goods so that those who are not so fortunate as to be able to walk into a fancy bookstore and buy books should have access to all kinds of the best books, yes, without it costing them a penny. So I also owe a debt to the American public library system, because we spent 7 years there when we were young and free, and I learned a lot there as well. I think all these things help build up right? Your idea of what is the kind of society that you want to be part of. And then when we became wealthy
Yeah.
unexpectedly,
Yeah.
then it allowed us to say, okay, here is an opportunity to help, to ourselves play that role and help other people build a society that all of us can be proud to belong to.
Yeah.
I guess then you start going to water, you start going to health, you start going into
Oh
equity.
yes, you've really, like I said, gender equity, women empowerment, water,
Actually, I'm
environment.
more interested right now. I have a whole portfolio on the empowerment of young men and boys.
I
Because
know,
of
I saw
course,
that.
we have to empower women.
Yes,
We
yes.
also have to look at what's happening to young males in this country and around the world.
Yeah, because the way society is changing, the men are probably going to be dealing with a genre of women who have not existed in the country before.
Yes, who are much more, thank heavens, a
Yeah,
little more confident, who
yeah,
have a little more agency, who
yes.
certainly have a lot more education, right? Naturally, there are different ambitions and aspirations that have been unleashed, and men and boys have to deal with that. And so we have to go to the source of their own fears and anxieties and insecurities as well.
Right, right. So, ma'am, I want to go back into your childhood because, we're talking about books and reading, and I kind of got into the childhood of Mr. Ruskin Bond as well. And I'm going to do that with Mr. Anand Nilekani as well, Anand Nilkantan, who's going to come on after you immediately. But, you say you grew up between the pages of books. And
Yes.
I'm sure at that point, Indian writing and Indian books were so few and far between, right? So
Yes.
how do you see the whole scenario? It has changed today, and the access and variety to kids is so much more. So,
Yes.
what do you read of this whole transformation over the last 30 years in children's literature and children's books?
No, I can't be more happy about it because, to be honest, when we were very young, there were very few Indian books. Marathi, my mother tongue, I didn't have that many books in Marathi, right?
Mm,
And even though my mother was a Marathi and Sanskrit scholar herself, she
yeah,
actually encouraged us to read a lot in English because she felt that was the language of empowerment at the time.
right.
And so, and also in the library nearby, there were a lot of Enid Blyton type of books,
Yeah,
William,
yeah.
Winnie the Pooh, those kind of things. And the Indian books were mostly the comics, right? And the or tales of the Panchatantras or something. So nothing really
Jatakas and
so,
Panchatattras.
yeah, and nothing so modern, right? But Amar Chitrakatha, all that was just beginning. But so there was not enough children's literature in the Indian languages that we could access. But in the last 20 years, just mind blowing stuff has been happening, as you know, as the co founder of Pratham Books as
Yes,
well. And
yes.
our goal was to put a book in every child's hand in India to start with. And that means we had to produce books in many, 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 many languages so that children all over the country could access them. And look at what has been happening beyond these. We started in 2004, it's
Oh,
2020. How many publishers, how many
yeah.
languages, what an how much creativity has been unleashed. And today's children, how much choice you kids have. I want to be you again so that I can read books in lots of languages and lots of genres, lots of illustrations. It's
And
a
even for
marvelous.
us as parents, I read to my kids, I have books which have the same story, two lines in English, two in Hindi, and two in a third language also. So
Wonderful.
when we talk about early development of children, multilingual, reading is considered so important, and those books are available today.
Yes, yes, it's a marvelous explosion.
Yes.
And I hope the industry keeps getting stronger and stronger.
Yeah. And you are credited for democratizing, the joy of reading, for taking books. You have given away 1 billion books. Am I right on that number?
So let me be very clear. I co-founded Pratham Books. It
Yeah.
came out of the whole Pratham network
Yeah.
because we had helped to create many readers, and it was very important
Yes.
for them to have something to read. So I
Yes.
was there for 10 years.
Yeah.
But team after me, headed by Suzanne Singh, they've taken our idea of a digital platform much further, which is now called Story Weaver. And there are like literally tens of millions of readers and thousands of books in
And
200 languages.
and
All
parents
free,
can
all
download the books
free.
for free. They can print the books, download it for free.
So in some sense, we succeeded beyond our wildest dreams, and I cannot be happier because I want every child to have the joys that I had when I was little.
Yeah. No, and I read a statistic that you presented somewhere where you said, up until maybe the late 2000s,
Yes.
an average kid in the United Kingdom had access to 6 books,
Yes.
and in India, 20 children shared one book. Is that right?
Because there are not too many books were produced. Even today, we
Yeah.
have a long way to go. We have 300 million children in this country. And if you just imagine the number of books you would have to produce and create the distribution for, so that all parents could easily access books. Actually, physical books, I don't think you could even do that for so many million children,
Yeah.
right? So
Yeah.
you had
Yeah.
to go digital, you had to innovate, you had to think out of the box. But today, actually, our number, if you look at it, would probably be as comparable to the books now produced in UK. So we have flipped it. We have flipped the model around.
I mean, you've really created that whole paradigm
But
shift.
it's
And
not just me,
after
it's
you,
a lot
so
of
many
people.
publishers, after what Pratham did, so many publishers kind of, but it took that vision. It took that vision to say, books in the hand of every children, in every language and all of
and
that.
to and also to open up the potential of the market. Other
Yeah.
publishers needed to believe that there was a market, that
Yeah.
parents were aspirational, they wanted their children to read. So I think because we didn't have the limitations, in the sense because we were a not for profit and we were supporting it philanthropically,
Yeah.
we could experiment and take a lot of risk and
Yeah.
actually create sort of the market so that other publishers would come in with some confidence. So
Right.
that's really great. What fabulous quality of books are coming out from so many
Right, right.
publishers.
So it's very ironic because, on one hand, the number of books has kind of exploded in India. The number of people writing children's books has exploded, languages, all of it is all over. And still, we are on a parenting YouTube channel. I'm a parenting coach. And all I hear from parents is my kids are glued to the screen and they don't want to read.
Right.
Reading, while all of the availability is increased, reading as a habit has consistently been coming down,
Right.
right? So what do you think, what are some of those things parents can do to inculcate reading? And parents are, sometimes I feel today parents are kind of burning from both ends of the candle.
Yeah.
There's so much around. They're trying to curtail exposure. There's media. And of course, during the lockdown, they're also the friends, entertainers, everything for their kids. So
Yeah.
how do we get in reading as one of the pillars for a positive growth mindset for children? Because even from what I'm hearing from you, your early years and the influence books caused in your life have shaped what you are today.
Absolutely. No, first of all, I say, I really empathize with parents today. We got lucky. We didn't have so many technologies that just consume the
Yeah.
children, right?
Yeah.
So I empathize and I know how hard it is for young parents today to be able to, really make sure that children are not sort of consumed by the digital age, right? And that certain values are restored, right? So
Yeah.
first of all,
Yeah.
hats off to all of y'all, especially this year, for all that y'all have had to do to keep all your families sane and together. But about books, I'm very sure of one thing, and that first of all, this should not cause anxiety. The minute it causes anxiety in our heads, we're going to do things which are actually going to repel our children rather than attract them. So this feeling that my children should be reader, there should be physical books, should come as an expression of joy and opportunity rather than, oh my God, I better get my children to read somehow or the other. And that's
Mm.
not going to work very well. So children will probably do the exact opposite then.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
what
Yeah.
if you yourself as a parent, even if you're not a reader today, suppose
Yeah.
you're not an actual avid reader, but you know that you want your children to read, well, that little effort you can make to go pick up a really fun book, okay? And
Mm.
books for 3-year-olds are fun for people up to 90, okay?
Yeah.
So pick up something that looks like fun. First read it yourself, find something you can laugh over, and there are many books you can laugh over, and then present that to your kid and without anxiety, and then the next one and the next one. But of course, the earlier you start, so for the youngest parents who are listening, this is your time. Tomorrow morning or tonight is your time to get the first book into the house, an attractive book with a good story that you like, And that's the best way to begin. The earlier, the better. If those some of you are pregnant, now is the time to start. Okay, get a book and read it. So it's
Yeah.
never too early.
Is this what you did with your kids as well, ma'am?
Oh, absolutely. My kids, when they were in the womb, I was already preparing and buying books or thinking of what is available. And
Yeah.
when they were born, the first few months itself, even while they were, say, in the bath or whatever it is, there were some floating books around. By 6 months, books were being read to them.
Yeah.
By 8 months, they were very interested in books. So the earlier, the better, really.
Yeah, yeah. And also, early reading has such an impact on, school going children, the way they perform in school, because, good readers automatically build a speed of reading. They're able to, get into their textbooks faster. They're picked for plays and, your extemporaries and all this stuff in school. It's such a confidence, yeah.
No,
Confidence.
also there's tremendous research, Pallavi, to show that children who are exposed to books and reading, I mean, just vocabulary, what they have seen, they know thousands and thousands more words, even if they are exposed to one book. One study showed that.
Yeah.
So we cannot overemphasize the value of reading, and just reading anything. Just reading anything at all.
That's another important point. Yeah.
And it has shown correlation to many, many benefits in later life, right?
Yes.
So there's one more reason. But again, I would say don't make it a burden on yourselves. I don't want parents to feel, oh my God, my children don't read, I'm a bad parent. That's because, of course, reading is very good, but don't burden yourselves. The anxiety will make it worse. Keep trying to get books out into your families, at your everywhere, in the bathrooms, if you like, wherever. But keep trying, but don't get burdened down by anxiety. That won't help.
Yeah, and maybe
we should be judgmental about this. It's not about judging parents.
Yeah.
That's not what. It's because we love books, and we want you to love books too. That's all.
Yeah. And what about those parents and children who never read as young children, but today they're young teens, kids of 13, 14, they can pick up reading as well. It's never too late, right?
It's never too late, because finally there are great books I hear. I should start reading them just to keep abreast. But my other young friends tell me that even for 10-year-olds, 11-year-olds, 12-year-olds, there's a whole booming market now.
Yes.
So, instead of Diwali, instead of buying something, instead of buying a gizmo, I mean, book clubs, festivals, moms groups, they now allow you to know what is right for which age group. Go pick up something. And if your child doesn't read it, fine, leave it around anyway. Something will happen. But even more, get your child to gift a book to another child.
Very nice.
That's how you can spread the magic, right?
Yes. Yes. So in fact, even for Diwali, we give our help at home so many gifts. How about, books for their children? And
absolutely. I've been traveling all over the country. Just day before yesterday, I was out in the forest, and I always carry a thela full of books. And sometimes the children come and say, give me candy or something. I say, I don't have candy, but I have a book. And they say, me. And then I give out books. And then they clutch them, because nobody's given them a book for themselves before. God. So I just hand out like books, and one book for each child. And they just run away happily. And I said, you have to share them. You have to read each other those books, right? And they get very excited. And I say, when I come back next time, you have to read them to me. It's not just, there's work to do. And they get really excited.
No, that's such an amazing idea, because, everybody who is on our festival today are, the kind of parents who can afford good things for their own families, their children, for their help. And people do that. But books are something which are often forgotten, as, they're always the clothes and the toys and the mithai. But, the books are often the forgotten treasure that, one can rediscover again.
I think, as I've been saying recently, giving the gift of a reading life to a child is probably the best gift of all. And wherever you go, even if you're going, Indians travel a lot domestically now. You'll always, wherever you go, you'll be seeing children in communities, on the roadside, wherever. And nobody's going to stop you from handing over a colorful children's book, right? It's not an unsafe thing to do. So I urge you to experience that. Talk to the parents and say, can I give this book? I mean, don't force yourself. But I just imagine if all the children, if all of us participated in this society mission of creating a reading nation. A reading nation is a thinking nation. A reading nation understands that issues in society and life are not black and white, that there are marvelous shades of gray in between black and white, and that you can you can occupy those nuances and you can have a more richer life. So imagine if you could spread that.
Yeah, absolutely. No, that's such a wonderful thought that you've kind of given everybody who wants to contribute to, the lives of children, and everybody does. The intent is always there, but probably there's a lack of action or an idea behind what could possibly work. So, Rohini ma'am, who were some of your favorite influencers or influences growing up as a reader, and who are you reading these days? Who are the authors you're loving?
Oh, dear, I read a lot. So, no, influencers in the sense, I always get these questions and I tend to blank out. I should probably write.
No, your favorite authors growing up, who did you enjoy?
Well, when we grew up, we were reading Enid Blyton, okay? And we loved it, of course, a lot because she was a fabulous writer, and it's only much later that you start to analyze the politics behind it and stuff. But while you were reading it, it was just fantastic.
You lived in the St. Clair's hostels and the Mallory Towers.
And all the scones and everything else. Then, of course, I was a avid reader. So I read all kinds of things growing up, from mystery novels to literature to just about everything. Currently, I always try to read one fiction and one non-fiction book at the same time. Just yesterday and day before, I finished reading the new books by Devaki Jain, our feminist writer, and Ishar Aluwalia, our very talented economist. Both are trailblazing women of this country, and they've written lovely readable books, which I just finished. And now I'm reading Vikram Sampath's big fat tome. I'm going to use it for weights also tomorrow. On Savarkar, I'm reading. And I'm also reading several books on ecology. There's a book called Indica, which I've also picked up. So there's much to read, and I'm enjoying it.
Lovely. So Vikram Sampath and I were classmates at SP Jain in Mumbai. Yes. And he's writing some wonderful, huge books.
They're very good for doing weights.
Yes. So, you are a writer as well. And you started off as a journalist, and you wrote a lot of, articles and pieces. And way back, almost 2 decades ago, you wrote your medical thriller, which did very well. You were a published author even way back. How did you decide to move to children's literature?
Right. So actually, since I was small, Pallavi, I used to write little stories for children. My cousins, my, various people. And then my nieces and nephews would demand a story every day. So I would make stories with them as the main character. So I had practiced my skills of writing. Then my own children, I was making up stories for them all the time. But when we started Pratham Books, there weren't that many writers. Where were we going to get writers from? And so Madhav Chavan, Rukmini Banerjee of Pratham, the founders, and me, we started writing books ourselves, and I began to enjoy it a lot. And when my books became popular, then it fueled me to write more and more. So that's how I started writing for children, and now I really enjoy it.
So it was accidental. I mean, in the sense, writing commercially writing. Yeah.
We had to write because we had to literally walk the talk, and we became publishers and writers also. And some of those books did very well.
Yes, your Sringeri series, I in fact, when we spoke last week, I heard about it and I downloaded some of those, and I said, I'm going to read it out to my children. Tell us something more about the Sringeri series.
So Annual Haircut Day was the first book in the Sringeri Srinivas series.
Yeah.
And it just came out of something that happened in my office with a colleague who used to have long hair. He suddenly came with his hair really short, and I asked him, so what's with this? And Vishwanath said, yes, I cut my hair once a year. And then that just triggered something in me. And I created this farmer who only cuts his hair once a year. And I had to resolve, but nobody would cut his hair on that day. So I had to find a way to resolve his dilemma, because he had promised his gods that he's going to cut his hair on this day every year. And nobody would cut his hair. And then you have to find out what happens then. And then because everybody loved Sringeri so much and he became a real person in my head. So then I created five more books, and the sixth one is hovering in my mind. So there are 6 books in the series now. And
Yeah.
my greatest joy comes when people write to me saying they love Shingeri.
Yeah, he's funny. The books and the stories are simple, funny, silly, everything that little children kind of
I hope
love to hear. And yeah, and children have this repetitive need for repetition,
yes,
right? You read the same books to them again and again, and we just don't know the way they. I mean, it's child psychology. Repetition is a very core factor, and especially in
absolutely.
reading.
Yes, absolutely. The best, we know a book is good when a child wants it again and again and again. That's
Yeah.
how we know. That's the best marker of quality as far as
Yeah.
I'm concerned. So I try to write books that children will want to pick up again and again.
Again and again. So where do you look for ideas from? What's your writing process? How do you go about it?
I'm constantly on the lookout. Like I used to anyway, not very recently, but I used to meet a lot of children through my work in Akshara Foundation,
Huh.
Pratham.
Huh.
So I would be observing them all the time, and children around me in my life, grandnephews, grandnieces, and then of course my darling grandson, so, who was born almost 4 years ago. So watching him read, what is he doing with his life? What questions is he asking? Right, those are triggers for my imagination. So this new book that I have, The Hungry Little Sky Monster, is
Yes, I was.
because baby used to, he's always moon. He's the first one to see the moon in the sky every day. You couldn't even see it, but he would say moon. And then we would observe the moon becoming bigger and smaller every day. So I
Huh.
had to create a story for him as to why on earth it keeps growing smaller and bigger all the time. So that's where the story came about. That's how one gets inspiration. I'm sure that's true of all writers.
Yeah, yeah. So do you first think of the plot, or are you a visual thinker? Because you write a lot of picture books. So do the pictures pop in your mind? How?
Yeah, that's when I really say, God, why didn't you give me any skill at all in drawing? Because I can't draw to save my life. So I can't really think of the pictures first. I have to think of the story first,
Huh.
and then just hope that the illustrator and I will gel, because
Yeah.
that's very important. It's a difficult
Yeah.
process. But yeah, I'm very textual. So stories,
Yeah,
words,
because you're a
words,
reader. You're a
words.
reader. Yeah.
So words are my mantras. So
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
use words a lot.
So, ma'am, tell us more about this new book, The Hungry Little Sky Monster. And, the children, we have a lot of children on this show and who will watch this YouTube episode today and maybe even later. Can you read a few excerpts? Tell us more about this
Yeah,
and
sure. So like
enthrall
I
us.
told you, I wrote it for my grandson because he and I and the moon have such a relationship with each
Oh,
other.
so sweet.
And it's my first commercial book, in the sense all the work I've done is for Pratham Books up till now. All the 11
Ah,
or 12, 13 books that I wrote were all for Pratham Books. So
okay.
this is my first commercial venture.
Yeah.
So I'm very excited because it's
Yeah,
something new.
Juggernaut is publishing it.
It's published it. It's just getting shipped by Amazon
Huh.
and Flipkart, but it just come out on Children's Day. And Chiki Sarkar was my publisher and editor, and she worked very closely with me, and she's enormously talented. So it was great fun to work with her and to work with our illustrator, Megha Punatar, because she's done some fabulous
It looks so
pictures.
delicious. It's
You
enticing.
just look at the work she has done. I'm so excited for all of you to see it yourself. So I'll
Oh,
tell you what, I'll read out a little bit and give
yeah.
you hints so that you'll also be hungry to read the rest. Okay?
Lovely.
So it's this little boy who's a bit like my grandson, I suppose. And he says, Mama, look at the moon shining bright in the sky. I want to go to the moon. How I wish I could fly. Why does the moon grow big and then get so small? And on some nights, why is there no moon at all? Why can't I become small and then suddenly tall? I don't understand this moon at all. Mama laughs and hugs me tight. Sleep now, I'll tell you why another night. But then I begin to think, and I cannot sleep, not one little wink. Maybe a hungry little sky monster couldn't find anything fun to eat, and the full moon, so shiny and so near, looked like a yummy treat. He nibbled at bits of the moon that night. Soon he slunk past the stars for another bite. Then the sky monster feasted at every dinner, and the poor old moon got thinner and thinner. The sky monster pecked at the silvery light until there was nothing left to bite. When he saw the moon was gone, he got a big fright. Oh, what have I done? I must set it all right. He rushed to the moon maker in the sky. He held his ears in shame and began to cry. Moon maker, I didn't mean to eat up the moon. You must make another one very, very soon. And then we have to find out what the moon maker does and how did the moon come back. For that,
we have to wait. We have to get hold of the book for that. That is, you're right. Moon and children have been in a relationship from eons. You have the Chanda Mama story, and the moon laughing, and the cow jumped over the moon. And today, I have a 4-year-old son, ma'am.
Okay.
I have a 4-year-old boy and an 8-year-old girl. And on our night walks, it's always, where are the stars? Where's the moon? It's really what happened.
It's an intergenerational question. What's happening with this moon? When you're 3 years old, you say one day is big, one day is small.
Yeah, and then you get into waxing and waning and gibbous moon and this and that. You're like, oh my God.
But I thought we needed a new, fresh fable.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then it leads you then later to talk about the science of it. Because first it's a fun story, but then you get a chance to bring the science into it. And that's also fun because then you can do a lot of experiments with the globes and this and that. So I just wanted to lead in with the fable.
And at that age, kids are so curious. So you leave them with that.
Yes.
And it's buzzing. It's buzzing. So the first thing I'm going to do after I log off is go and hunt for the hungry little sky monster and buy it for my little one.
Thank you. It's just to write it. And you'll have to come and tell me whether you liked it or not.
Yes, and I'm going to maybe I'm going to send it to you to get an autographed version.
100%, of course.
So parents, please do get hold of a copy because this looks like one of those stories which is going to be read again and again and again, and that's the best way to get your kids hooked onto reading. So we're going to straight away get that book. So now that this book is published, what else are you writing these days? What's cooking in Rohini Nilekani's kitchen?
Yeah, so I am writing another book, but I prefer not to talk of books till they're written. So for adults, so I'm writing another book for adults. But my children's writing will continue because my inspiration is there now. And as he grows older, I hope I can write books for older children as well. Because so far I've written books for about 3 to 5 year olds, 2 to 5 year olds. Yeah. But it'll be very challenging and exciting to write for 6 to 9 year olds.
Yeah.
I know I have a lot of.
The 6 to 9 year olds today are probably what we were at 13, 20 years ago.
So it'll be very, 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 very tough. But I really hope I can do it.
No, but by then, they've discovered that they know how to read by themselves. They don't need mama and daddy reading to them. They want to get into their, just leave me alone and give me time, So that's a wonderful year for them wonderful age group for them to.
And it's very challenging. It's very hard to write children's books. It's phenomenally
I've been getting
hard.
That a lot, yeah.
So, as I keep saying, when I was with Pratham Books, I used to go to all the famous writers or any famous writers and say, please write for us, because our job was to get out as many books as possible. And I would go to everybody. I went to Girish Karnad, I went to Javed Akhtarji, I went to so many people and said, please write. But they would say, for children, no, we can't. We are scared. We can't write for children.
Oh my God.
So we got a few to agree though.
Yeah.
Because it's so tough, children, to get into a child's mind and write something that a child can read is not so easy, as I found as I struggled through making my books happen.
Yeah. So, ma'am, we are on a parenting channel, and young parents have a lot of questions. So, this is a question apart from reading, aside of literature and books and reading. You've been through the drill of raising children, and you have grandchildren now. If you were to look back on your years of being, a young parent, a parent of a young, a preteen, a teen, what are some of those things that you would do differently? Some things that you wouldn't do, and some things that today you feel, oh, I wish I did this for my kids. So, if we could get the wisdom from your years of being a young mother.
Pallavi, I was very lucky as a young parent because I was smart enough to send my kids to Valley School here in Bangalore. Oh. And they have this 100-acre campus.
Rishi Valley?
No, it was a day school, Valley School.
Okay, Valley School.
The Bangalore one.
Huh.
And so, they had this marvelous campus. They grew up in nature, which I couldn't give them where I lived. And they had this set of extremely caring teachers who were very, very open-minded. So I was able to let the school join me, and all the staff join me in parenting my children. And I feel eternally grateful for that because it left a lasting impression on both. The values that the school has and the way they allow children to have agency, I think made a big difference and supporting my efforts at parenting. But what would I do differently? I think I wish I had somehow excited them more about sports and music, because I think sports and music give you such core skills that you can take those skills anywhere in the world, right?
Yeah.
Sports is happening everywhere. Music is happening everywhere. And to be able to participate in both, to learn to play an instrument. I tried to get my son with tabla, but he gave up. I tried my daughter with singing. She gave up. I wish I had been a little more persistent as a mother without being a tiger mom necessarily. To say, no, but beta, please, one sport and one music form. You should, by the age of 10, try to be a little proficient in, and so that you'll always have something to enjoy and something to keep you healthy. So if I were to be a parent, then I would try to find ways to nurture these two things in them, because they were always a lot in their head. They would read a lot and stuff. But these two things, I think, give you lifelong, they're your lifelong sources of strength and inspiration. So that's what I would do differently for sure.
Lovely, lovely. And now as a mom of a child who has a child, so your grandson is your daughter's son?
Yes,
daughter's son. So what are those one or two things you tell your daughter, you should do this or you shouldn't do that, looking at her as a young mom in this generation?
No. It's a very bad idea to tell your children what to do with their children. There'll be a huge backlash. So of course I can't help it, and mama, then she'll tell me to recede.
Yes.
She's bold enough to tell me. But as a grandparent, I can do whatever I want. The daughter won't stop me from that, right?
Yeah.
She says, how much will you pamper this child? I say, as much as I can, because that's my prerogative, right? As a grandmother, you discipline him, but I'm going to pamper him, of course, up to some limits. But it's just marvelous being a grandparent. And so I don't tell her how to parent her child. That's not a good idea. But we talk about some things, right? We talk about, like, sometimes she'll ask, so like whether it's for health reasons or whether we discuss a lot about what books to buy, what toys to get. Those are good things. And then I interact with him a lot. So then if he has something to share with me, I can take it to her. Right? I heard him say this, is something been going on. So those are the marvelous intergenerational things that one can do.
No, that's lovely. And I think in India, we are blessed with families who, are very connected to grandparents, to aunts and uncles. And I think that's something all of us as young parents should make complete use of, because we're all busy working, but you have a support system in grandparents. So never forget that. I keep telling harassed moms, you reach out for help and reach out to, others who are invested in your child.
Yeah, I have, on that, I have just one thing to say that I've noticed about younger parents, that
Yeah.
because nuclear family is growing as an idea, they're all very anxious, right? Because unlike if you let a whole village raise a child, then a mom is just one out of many people raising the child. But when you
Yeah.
have parents in a nuclear family, you're more anxious. You want to control everything around the child. So maybe parents need to let go and let caring aunts, any caring adult, and any safe adult, of course,
Yes. Yes.
uh, but let your child experience the care of other older people, especially grandparents, because you can never find that kind of unconditional love, right? And it's just flowing. Grandparents
Yeah.
can't help it. So, as you say, if you have an
Allow
opportunity,
them to build their own relationships
yes,
with a
yes.
variety of safe adults.
Absolutely. That's one of the best things you can do for the emotional development of your.
Development. Right. Right. So, ma'am, I think we're really lucky to have had you here, and we're so happy to have discussed parenting issues, reading, your ventures, and all of that. But on a last note, I do want to ask you, while you are managing so many things, you stay cheerful. You are so light, you're so approachable, you're so beautiful and chirpy all the time. How do you manage
I don't know
to
if my
do all
husband
of
will
that?
agree with you. I don't think my husband will agree with you. That I'm grumpy No, of course I have my very grumpy moments, but I think the trick is to remain curious. If you're curious, things will get you down, but something else will interest you. Your eye will turn to something interesting. Your mind will turn to something interesting, and then life is so rich with possibilities, right? That you have to come out of your grump and flump, and then get engaged. And
Yeah.
when you are engaging, and this is very important for young parents, and I wish I had learned it earlier than I did, focus on external things. If when we are not only focused on ourselves, when we are focused only on ourselves, we can get down, we can get anxious, we can get depressed. The minute we turn our attention outward and learn to give of ourselves forward, then you have no choice but to be curious, happy, optimistic, because
Yeah.
people and things always give one strength, right? So our external things will give us internal strength. So I try to do that. And for young parents who are really so harassed right now, I would say find something that interests you. It could be anything, something in the world that you want to change. It could be just about anything at all, and focus on that and see what happens. So
Yeah.
that's
And
what I
that's,
try
yeah,
to do.
I think the positivity radiates around everybody around you, and everybody is motivated to do their little bit, looking at a happy person and a cheerful person, going around curious and trying to do that little more.
So I always say stay curious, stay connected.
Hmm.
Connected to all the issues of the world. We are all one large family with only one planet home so far.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stay curious, stay connected, and stay committed. Stay committed to the path that you choose.
Yes.
So that's what I try to do in my little way. And I know some wisdom comes only when you're older, which is very true of me.
Hmm.
But today's people are 100 times wiser than I used to be at your ages, Pallavi.
Oh, that's
It's
not
very true.
entirely
No, no,
true.
it's very, very true. It's very, very true because there's so much more exposure. There's so much technology plays such a huge role in this, right? So you all have so many more advantages, younger people. Use every one of them.
Yeah. Thank you, Rohini ma'am. It's such a pleasure. I grew up as a young girl all the way to when I was 25 in Bangalore. And as a Bangalore child, you've always, heard of Nandan and Rohini ma'am, you, and it's always, it's been such a dream for me to speak to you. It's been so
It's
wonderful.
kind of you. I really hope we can keep interacting in any way. If your group has questions for me later, I'll be happy to answer them. Thank you so much for having me, and I really hope the children will love my book.
Oh, yes, yes,
I just
absolutely.
want them to love it.
Lovely, lovely. We're going to do that, and we're going to, on our Instagram and Facebook, we're going to post about this book, and also I'll post about the Shringeri series and some of the other
Thank you.
books that parents can download everywhere and
Yes.
give their kids access to.
Thank you so much.
Thank you so much, ma'am.